Thanks for coming. Just reflect on the Northridge game a little bit as we obviously head into our next game. I think there were some things that we did that fall in line with the things that we obviously want our team to do and want to be about. And I thought we did them well. We shot the ball well from the free throw line, from the three-point line. To do that on the road, particularly early in the season, was encouraging. I thought our minutes played was terrific. We didn't have anybody over 27 or 28 minutes, which is what we want to do. Spread it out, got some good minutes from some guys all the way kind of up and down the roster. And fortunately, we're able to win a game late, and that's something that we've been able to do here as we kind of embrace our style of play, our conditioning, and being able to kind of like finish games. Wasn't pretty, wasn't ideal, but fortunately we were able to do it and hopefully kind of reinforce those habits going forward. I think they shot the ball really well out of the gate. You got to give them credit. They made some really tough shots early on. I think they obviously did a really good job of rebounding. Nine offensive rebounds in the second half alone. And I think their shots early and their rebounds late really kind of kept them around in the game and made it very competitive, which was perfect for us. You know, to go through a game like that on the road, the adversity that comes with that, the growth that comes from that, obviously a tremendous opportunity for us. So really glad about that, both the positives and the negatives, because it's going to allow us to kind of work on some negatives going forward. As we turn to Northern now, another great opportunity for us now to go through the idea of playing a home game, going through that routine for the first time. We did it obviously just here on the road with Northridge, and now we're coming home to go through our preparations for a home game and hopefully get those cobwebs off as well. It seems a little later to be doing this, but it's actually perfect for us to be able to kind of slide our season back a little bit and get ourselves some more practice time, get our newcomers more time to get used to each other, is a tremendous advantage for us as we kind of go forward. We have a lot of practice time here over the first few weeks of the season, and this is obviously something for us as well, where we can really practice these next few days, get ready for the game, and continue to kind of grow and learn and allow our team to develop. So, really excited about that part of where we're at in our schedule and the improvement that we know we need to make. The way we play, the team that we have, what we're about, we're not going to overwhelm people with one or two great players, and it might set us back's probably the wrong word, but it might restrict us a little bit early on from maybe showing everyone the way we can be. The way we play, the amount of players we play, the style that we play is really built to help you as the season goes on. But when you play 25 minutes a game, it might not show up in game 2 or game 3. It shows up in game 25, and Northridge's returning leading scorer played 38 minutes. We don't play anybody that much, but that's not going to necessarily show up right now for Northridge. It's something that might show up in January and February. So as we work with this and we work through this, we're well aware that short term, as great as I want to be and I want to win all these games, we may not be exactly where we need to be in comparison to our opponents, because that's something we're building on as the year goes on, and we take a lot of pride in that. But that doesn't excuse what's going to happen Saturday night or Tuesday night or the following Saturday night. We have to go out and give our best effort and give ourselves the best chance at victory, and that's what we're going to continue to do here in practices as we head into the weekend game. Quick roster update: Drew Drennan, I would list as questionable for Saturday. I would like for him to be able to go, but will not push it. We'll kind of ramp him up here over the next couple of days and see how he responds to that. If it's something that he doesn't respond well to, then we'll probably scale it back. If it's something we can kind of push forward, then I think in a perfect scenario, he'd play Saturday, and in a worst case, we'll just keep resting him and see where we're at in another 3 or 4 days. But still working forward with him. I know I released a statement on Carlton this morning. I'll kind of probably just stick to that statement for now as I try and accumulate more information. I'd be lying if I haven't said I've spent over 100 man-hours on this over the past couple months with compliance, with attorneys, with professors, with you name it, as far as trying to put my arms around it and understand it as best I can. I think we all have conflict of interest in various areas, and as I try and pride myself on understanding that concept, I've shared this information with as many people I respect as I know. Again, faculty members, compliance officers, people that can give me a straight answer, Paul, like you're right or you're wrong or whatever. And I've yet to meet someone to tell me that they would have adjudicated the case the same way. So very confusing to me. And before I start passing judgment on some things that I think might be going on, I'd really rather spend some more time to kind of figure out and get my arms totally around it. Before I make any real more further comments on the actual case itself, I'll stick to kind of my earlier statement. So just a little bit about where we're at, where we're going, and then a little bit on the roster. Any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
So this isn't a case-specific question for Carlton, but because it's an exhibition, he would be eligible to play normally. Can he play Saturday?
He cannot play.
Is that normal? Because I know
it would be normal.
I thought mid-semester players were in the past allowed to play in preseason exhibitions.
From my understanding, he has to sit out no different than because he has to still fulfill his year in residency. It would be no different than another student athlete fulfilling their year in residency. They couldn't, like Vance and Jaquan could not have played in our exhibition games last year. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But he can continue to still practice.
He's practicing, yeah.
I thought in the past the red shirts were allowed to play.
They cherry and silver, kind of open practices, things like that. But the actual like competitions of an exhibition or a scrimmage, from my understanding, they cannot. Or that's what's been conveyed to me.
In your statement, like, because we're TV, like if you said your statement, it'd be
sure. Yeah, I'd have to read it again. Gosh. I think based on all the documentation we've received and I've looked at, the decision is shocking. Hopefully that's something we can continue to work with the NCAA and Arizona State to really not hurt Carlton. Unfortunately, from my understanding of the facts and everyone else's, he's an injured party here, and hopefully that will be alleviated at some point soon.
As far as Drew goes, what level of practice has he had so far? Maybe not practice, but just even anything physical so far?
Just some little workouts. We did some shooting workouts this morning, and he was out there. He's doing some light movement, or has been doing light movement. Again, we traveled, obviously traveled Monday, played Tuesday, traveled yesterday. Today's after having seen him in 3 days, so kind of we're going to ramp it up a little bit and see how he reacts to it. If it's painful and we got to scale back, we will. But if it's something where he still feels good after it, we'll keep pushing.
Well, with his being a point guard, I guess let me ask now then. Anthony got 4 3-pointers, I know. Were you happy with Anthony Mathis playing on the ball and not being as open as he could be playing off the ball?
Yeah, I thought Anthony did a really good job, and quite honestly, I thought Keith did a pretty good job. For the limited minutes that we gave him, I thought Keith came in and did some good things. I think when you look at our overall offensive ineffectiveness, the 13 second-half turnovers, I think that had a lot more to do with the non-point guards than it did the actual point guards. So I don't look back at that game and think Anthony or Keith were a significant part of our basically turning the ball over. I would think it would be some other guys in the court that just have to do a better job of taking care of the basketball.
I guess my question with Anthony isn't so much did he perform okay as a point guard. We know what kind of dangerous weapon he can be as a shooting guard, as an off guard. And you're taking that away by making him a point. Is the trade-off one game in, maybe it's just the sample size isn't worth looking at yet, but is there any possibility that you come to a point in this season where you think the trade-off is not worth it, and you put him back to what he was last year, which was a dangerous shooter?
Yeah, I think if you asked me that about last year's team, in obviously not the same player, but I think we can shoot the ball better than last year, and I think by adding someone like Vance, bringing McQuatch back, I think we can shoot from more spots on the floor in different parts of the floor. So I don't think Anthony's shots would really change a ton either way. I think last year's team had some real non-shooters and some shooters, and you had to maybe adjust to both. But I think this year's team's ability, as far as the breadth of our shooting, probably eliminates a little bit of that question, because I think Anthony's out there with other shooters, and whatever position he happens to be in, they're going to have to dictate how they guard those things anyways.
How big a step can players take now that you have the film, especially on the defensive end, the interior defense, the back cut to look like they're getting you there a couple of times. So when the players can see it now differently, how can they grow there?
Yeah, hopefully a lot. I think it's one thing to show them, and as weird as this statement may sound, it's one thing to show them one of the best offensive basketball teams in Lobo history, which was last year. And when you look at the numbers, it bears that out. They were a terrific offensive team with personnel that all of us might think, are you serious? But they were, and they were for a reason. And it's one thing to show these guys, hey, look, if you do what we were doing, we can do just as much, if not more. And then to go out and do what we do offensively, now we can go back and say, okay, now maybe you'll understand a little bit more why these guys did what they did, particularly on the offensive end of the court. Here's us not doing some of the things that that team was willing and able to do that we haven't quite figured out yet. So I think you're right. We try, we teach, we put in front of their face every day opportunities for them to grow. But until you kind of get hit in the mouth yourself one time, sometimes that's what it takes for you to finally say, you know what, I'm going to go do that wholeheartedly now.
Coach, what do you, this game coming up Saturday, is this one of those, so it's kind of like you just want to work on some things as opposed to being real serious about, hey, this is a big old game. This is one of those games where you want to work on some things, like maybe some of the stuff that you saw on the road?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the beauty of this, today's film session is all that game. It's not, we got a game in 2 days, we're just going to go crazy. It's an exhibition game. So this is what teams maybe were doing a couple of weeks ago, but we're still able to cheat and kind of get in right now. We can still get in working on us, growing ourselves, not getting bogged down in the minutia of maybe another team and taking away from our own growth process. So yes, for sure.
Coach, you've been talking to these guys and saying, you got to do some of the things that last year's team did. But the team you put on the floor was really big.
Yep.
Are they able to, with that size, will they be able to do those kind of things?
I would hope so. That's the expectation. Now, I think every team needs to adapt. I think every team needs to adjust for personnel, just like last year's team did as the season unfolded. And that's part of my job right now. That's the staff meetings you're having all day, trying to move these chess pieces around and make sure we're giving ourselves the best chance to win, but still maintaining loyalty to what got you here, what recruited these kids here, what you train and practice for, and continuing to implement our style of play, but adapting it now to particular players. And how that may end up fleshing out is not a perfect portrait. That's going to take a little bit of time for us to continue to paint.
This being an exhibition on Saturday, what do you expect to see from your team that could be considered like a good game? Even though it's only an exhibition, it is kind of like an extra practice. Like, what's your goal for that?
Yeah, I think, and I probably didn't mention this enough earlier, I think we did some things that I want, or we want to be known for. You know what I'm saying? In our game one, we shot the ball well. And that was something even early in the year last year. We had some games coming in going, gosh, like we're taking all these threes, but they're not going in. So to be able to shoot the ball in a first road game of the year well at the free throw line and from the three-point line was encouraging. To see a team in the second half go 0 for 8 from 3, shoot 50% from the free throw line, have to play good players major minutes, that's also something we take pride in, saying, you know what? They couldn't make one in the second half. They struggled at the free throw line. They had to play this guy 38 minutes or this guy 30-something minutes. So those are things that we know are a part of what we do. What we struggled on, protecting the backboard, turning over the basketball, implementing our style where we could turn them over more. Those are things as we go forward we want to make sure we do a better job of that hopefully we'll be able to do Saturday night.
Paul, getting back to trying to get the guys on the same page together as you did last year, to me it doesn't seem to matter what you're doing as far as the height you're putting out,
Yep.
or the style, or anything like that. It's things that you can't see recruiting guys, getting them to transfer or whatever. You really don't know until you put them out there in game situations and how they're going to mesh. Is that
Yeah. The best part about the last 2 weeks, because even the scrimmage probably didn't go the way outside expectations would indicate, or maybe the way last year's season would indicate, coupled with this Northridge game, to me is terrific, because we're dealing with adversity that last year we were dealing with all the way through to December. And I'm not walking around hugging guys today and trying to make them feel good. I'm not trying to build confidence. I'm not trying to get those things that this time last year we were really trying to. I think we have that now. Now it's my job to coach. It's my job to teach. It's my job to hold accountable. Things we were doing last year in December, January, and February, we're doing now in October and November. So I think that's a great process for us. However, we still have to have the same trajectory of improvement that last year's team had when we went through that process, and that's something this team hasn't undergone yet. So as long as these things are happening and we're growing and improving, it's great. But if these things are happening and we're not growing and improving, then they're not happening for naught. And that's where hopefully this team will be able to be as good as last year's team and still have that room for growth.
Are you confident that everybody will eventually buy into everything that you're trying to get them to do?
I am.
One thing was kind of a little strange really in the game is we only had 9 assists. Now, is that because we shot the ball so well? Because we shot 20 shots less than Northridge? Why did we only get 9 assists? It just seemed real low.
You're exactly right. And you know, I told them after the game, last year when we played Tennessee Tech, we lost to Tennessee Tech, and Tennessee Tech scored some points at the back of the press. And they were hurtful. And they were what you remember from the game. You look back at the Tennessee Tech game, and man, like they shot those through the back of the press. That's why the Lobos lost the game. But what people didn't see were the 20 turnovers of us throwing the ball all over the place against their 1-3-1 and their zones that just led to leak outs at the other end. And you can do the same thing with this game, and you can start to look at, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. We turned the ball over 13 times in the second half, and we didn't play basketball offensively the way I would have liked. Larry Brown as a coach, I think a lot of basketball coaches admire. You can't have a good defense without a good offense. You just can't. You have to be able to take good shots, manage the basketball, and manage the game at the offensive end to become a good defensive team. And offensively, we're not doing the kinds of things that would embody how we want to play. And the 9 assists is a perfect indicator of that. We did a lot of stuff that was just out of what we normally would do offensively. Some one-on-one play, some shots out of offense, where the ball should get moved, it didn't get moved, and that was what contributed to a lot of the other stuff, way more so than the other stuff independently of its own. So that stat alone is exactly what we've discussed since the game, and exactly what last year was going on when we were kind of encountering the same problems.
Is Saturday a game that Clay Patterson might play, and can you also talk a little bit about why Jordan Arroyo, a walk-on, played big minutes for a first game as a walk-on?
Yeah, I think I've said this before. Jordan Arroyo has exceeded any expectation I had or the staff had with regards to his work ethic, with regards to his energy, his body language, his commitment to this team. He's been exceptional. We've had scrimmages as a team where he's been one of the most influential players on the floor. He fits our style great because he's a high-energy kid. He's got long arms and gets his hands on balls. He blocks shots. He just does things that fits very well with us. And I've explained to our other post players, they may think they know what their playing time may be, but I have absolutely no hesitation to play him more. He started our scrimmage, and I have no problem starting him going forward if he earns it or warrants it. And I'm very excited about not only what he's brought to our program now, but if he continues to just work and keep his head down and grind on the court, in the weight room, in the classroom, I'm very excited about what he's going to be able to do like long-term as a Lobo.
Well, so not as an insult to Jordan, though. you're not playing him as a message to the other guys.
Not at all, not at all. And I think you saw that from when he went in. The kid went in. He gets rebounds. He gets points. Like he impacts the game, and he did great in the minutes he had. He had a great one-on-one stop on Gianni. He played one-on-one defense, stopped him, boxed him out, got a rebound. That was a better individual defensive possession than I can show to any other big man that we had as far as a one-on-one individual defensive possession against the leading scorer on the other team than any other big. Like, that's why we have something called the wall of truth. That's why guys start for deflections. I do not play guys based on who recruited them, whose mom I know, whose coach I like, who brings me cookies. It's performance-based, and Jordan Arroyo is answering that bell better than a lot of other guys.
And does Saturday give Clay an opportunity to get on the court?
Clay would have had an opportunity potentially Saturday night or Tuesday night. I had a conversation with Clay, no different than I had with Jordan, about maybe redshirting or not redshirting and where their thoughts are. They're both very engaged. They both want to play. If I can get Clay into a game where I feel like it's of everybody's best interest, Clay will play.
That would change his redshirt?
Clay technically already did redshirt I'm sure there's an opportunity where he could maybe get a 6th year if he was to choose a redshirt this year. But at this point in time, that's not something either of us are looking to explore.
Coach, considering that you won't have Carlton for about 7 games here, the complement between Menegal and Ezzedine seems to work pretty well. One's a banger and the other guy does some other things. You like the way they complement?
I still feel like they're all forming. You know, I feel like Vlad is still trying to form himself as a sophomore now. I think Kareem and Corey are still trying to find their way a little bit. Jordan's now in there. At the end of the game, we move McQuatch to the 4. So I still feel like we're trying to find a little bit of what that rotation and role will look like up front, but I'm encouraged by all of them to varying degrees and in different ways. But I think Corey in particular has demonstrated some things early on that are really exciting for us about where this could potentially go over the course of this season and obviously beyond.
2 more?
I just had a question. Shooting threes. Has everybody on the team, can they all shoot threes? Can you let them shoot
That's
threes?
a really good question. Not one I'm going to entirely answer right now. Most of them have a complete green light, and even if they take a bad one, they're not going to hear much from me. And then there's a couple that we're still working through those conversations.
Coach,
Vlad is the only absolute no right now, and I got 1 or 2 others that they make their case every day, and I make mine, and I have not completely answered that question. Coach Henson always used to tell me I had to get it done before the first game of the season, but sometimes when you got a lot of new guys and you're trying to figure some stuff out, I don't want to pull the plug one way or the other. And then to be totally honest with you, Joe Firstinger earned the right to shoot a couple last year, and I believe in that as well. Coach Fisher allowed Chris Webber to shoot 1 every game at Michigan just because of everything that he did, and I gave Joe that latitude last year. And some of those guys are in that gray area. I've kind of explained to them if they can go do some things that Joe did and do some things that I really appreciate, I'll give them a reward once in a while to give themselves a shot at one.
Coach, what is practice like? You get one eye on Northern New Mexico, one eye on Iona?
The beautiful part about this being an exhibition and this time of the year, I'm saying right now it's all on us. We're improving. We're practicing as if it's whatever. We got to get better. We have to grow. Towards the end of today and tomorrow, we'll spend a little time on Northern, particularly the things that will blend into the Iona game.
Rob, last one.
Regarding the question about the threes, just the Jerry Silver, a few practices we've seen, it does look like Kareem shoots the 3 very well. The shots that he took from 3 in the game, are those ones that you like, and would you encourage him to continue to take those?
As unique as this may sound to what you're saying, which is correct, no. He didn't take the type of ones that we look to take. Deep and contested, hesitating. were not ones that, we want to be in rhythm, we want to be in flow, we want to know everyone. I talk about this all the time. As long as I know you're shooting, then it's a good. Everyone on the floor should feel. If they don't know if you're shooting or not, then usually it's not a good shot because no one really knows what's going on. And I felt like I think you're right with regards to his ability, but with regards to the shots he took, those are ones, and we watched them already as a team, saying this is just not ones we would overly encourage.
All right, thank you.
Yep.